I've only been afraid of flying once in my life, on Flight 273. It was a red-eye flight from Karachi to London. Half empty, quiet, and dimly lit. I was seated in 17C, an aisle seat. The seat beside me, 17B, was empty. But 17A, by the window, had someone already sitting there when I boarded. A tall man wearing a black hoodie pulled over his face. I never saw him clearly. When I greeted him, he didn't move or respond. He just sat perfectly still. The flight took off around midnight. A few hours later, when most passengers were asleep, I started to notice something strange. The man in 17A hadn't moved once. Not to drink, not to adjust, not even to breathe. At least I couldn't hear him breathe. The cabin was freezing, and the air felt heavier than normal. I remember thinking maybe he was asleep, but when I glanced again, his head was turned, facing the window, at an odd, unnatural angle. Then came the smell, like wet earth mixed with something metallic. Blood, maybe. I leaned slightly closer, trying to see his face under the hood. That's when I saw his hand. It was gray, not pale. Gray like the color of ash. The fingers were stiff, the nails dark and cracked. I quickly looked away, heart pounding, convincing myself it was just bad lighting. But a few minutes later, I noticed condensation forming on the window beside him, as if someone was breathing against it, but he still hadn't moved. Then the flight attendant came by, checking on everyone. When she got to my row, I whispered, "Hey, the man next to me, is he okay?" She frowned. "Sir, this row is empty except for you." I froze. "No, there's someone sitting in 17A. She looked directly at the seat, and her smile faded for just a second. Then quietly she said, "If you need anything, just press the call button," and hurried off. When I turned back, the window seat was empty. No hoodie, no man, just the faint outline of a wet handprint on the glass. I didn't sleep the rest of the flight. Every few minutes I thought I saw movement, a shadow slipping between seats, a reflection in the dark window. At one point I swear I felt cold breath against my ear. When we landed in London, I was the first to leave. At the airport I stopped one of the crew members and asked again about that seat. She looked at me pale and said, "Seat 17A was sealed after the incident in 2019. A passenger had died there during the flight, but sometimes people still see him." I didn't know what to say. She walked off, leaving me standing there in shock. Later, when I looked at my boarding pass again, my seat wasn't 17C, it was 17A.
It was supposed to be a routine night flight from London to Toronto, Flight 729, a red-eye flight full of tired passengers. The cabin lights dimmed, engines hummed steadily, and most people drifted off to sleep as the plane crossed the Atlantic. About 4 hours into the flight, turbulence shook the plane violently. A few passengers woke up, gripping their armrests, but it lasted only a few seconds, then silence. The kind of silence that didn't feel right. When the flight attendant, Anna, stood to check on passengers, she noticed something terrifying. Row 12 empty. She was sure there had been a family sitting there earlier. A man, woman, and a little boy with a red toy airplane. The blankets were still crumpled. Drinks half finished, the boy's toy on the floor, but the family was gone. Anna called the other crew members, but they hadn't seen anyone move. The doors were sealed. No one could have left. The captain checked the passenger list, every name still marked on board. The turbulence hit again, stronger this time, and the cabin lights flickered. For a brief second, Anna swore she saw shadows sitting in the empty seats, faint, transparent, watching her. Then came a call from the cockpit. The co-pilot's voice trembled. "We're receiving a radio signal from Flight 729. Anna froze. "But this is Flight 729, she whispered. The voice on the radio repeated, "This is Flight 729. We're declaring an emergency. We're going down." The captain looked pale. "That recording," he said, "was from 3 years ago. Flight 729 disappeared over the Atlantic. No survivors." Suddenly, the cabin lights went out completely. Screams echoed in the dark, and the sound of rushing wind filled the cabin, but the plane was steady. When the lights flickered back on, every passenger was gone. Only Anna remained, standing among hundreds of empty seats, and the little red toy airplane rolling slowly down the aisle. When rescue teams finally found the plane drifting on autopilot over the ocean, there was no one inside, no sign of a struggle, no bodies, just an eerie silence and a faint radio transmission looping again and again. "This is Flight 729. We're not supposed to be here."
It was a cold November night when Flight 93 took off from Chicago to Paris. The cabin was quiet, most passengers tired, half asleep. At 2:15 a.m., somewhere over the Atlantic, turbulence began. Just a few bumps at first, until the plane suddenly dropped. Gasps filled the air, drinks spilled, and then everything went still. The lights flickered once, twice, then went out completely. Only the red glow of the exit signs remained. The passenger in seat 21A, Rachel, sitting near the wing, noticed something strange. The man beside her, middle-aged, gray jacket, wasn't moving. He just stared out the window, frozen. "Sir, are you all right?" she whispered. He turned slowly toward her, and she realized his eyes were completely white. She screamed, but no one heard, because in that moment, the engine stopped. Silence filled the plane. No hum, no wind. Just breathing dozens of frightened people, holding their breath. Then came a knock. Tap, tap, tap. From the outside of the window, the voice of the captain. A faint crackle came from the speakers. "This is your captain speaking." The voice was trembling. "Do not look outside your windows. Whatever you do, keep your eyes forward." Someone in the back shouted, "What's going on?" But the captain didn't reply. Instead, the intercom began playing static whispers, voices overlapping, repeating, "Altitude 000. Rachel glanced toward the front. The cockpit door was open. A faint, dark mist drifted out into the aisle. The wing, despite the warning, curiosity won. She looked out the window. Something was crawling on the wing, a black, human-like figure, long fingers gripping the metal, eyes glowing faintly blue. It turned its head toward her and smiled. Then, the entire plane tilted violently. People screamed, oxygen masks dropped, lights burst one by one. The creature began pulling itself toward the cabin door. A man stood up, shouting that he saw land below. But when Rachel looked, there was no land, only dark, still water, and faint shapes floating beneath it, like other planes buried deep in the sea. The final message. At 3:42 a.m., all radar contact with Flight 93 was lost. A week later, a cargo ship in the North Atlantic picked up a faint emergency signal from an old transponder. It belonged to Flight 93, the same one that vanished 10 years earlier. When rescuers found the wreckage, it was covered in frost, floating silently. Inside, every seat was filled, but every passenger was frozen, staring out their windows. The flight recorder played only one sentence, repeated over and over by the captain's voice. "We're descending, but there's no ground."